Welcome. This is Jean Eaton of Information Managers. It is my honor and pleasure to be with you today for the Practice Management Nuggets. The Practice Management Nugget series is a weekly interview series with practice managers, healthcare providers, or trusted vendors who support healthcare practices. Today's guest is Gordon Shepherd of Succession Managers Incorporated. Gordon is a business advisor who helps leaders maximize the value of their organizations. Gord is the owner of Succession Management in Edmonton, Alberta. He has an MBA from the University of Alberta, and his passion is helping your legacy succeed. Gordon is a legacy builder, management consultant, and the president of Succession Managers Incorporated. Welcome, Gord.
It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. You and I first met at a business networking event in Edmonton at the Business Link. And when you told me your story about the type of work that you do, I thought to myself, I need to have you on as a guest to share with your experience and let my people know about what they need to prepare about for planning to exit.
Well, I really appreciate that aspect of it, and what I can hear in your voice right now, that's part of it is that sort of fever pitch of excitement around the topic, and I'm glad you picked up on it. It's such a great honor to be on. Well,
thank you. So what is your story? How did you get to doing succession management?
One of the things in terms of my background or talking about it credential-wise, I've got sort of 20 years of communications management and strategic management experience behind me in sort of corporate world, in my own business and this kind of thing. And then added on the MBA formal experience, 2,000 hours of torture between the ages of probably 42 and 45, to get those skills into my bag. And part of that journey as I went through transitioning was finding a real passion. And what I think at the root of my passion, if I could describe it, is I love the aha moment. And when I say that, it's when I sit with a business owner and I'm able to give them information, and I always say that I give options and not answers. If I can give them an option that moves them forward, that creates a better or more valuable situation, whether it's personally, bottom line, or this kind of thing, that's my excitement. And if I can then use all of the business skills, because I think a lot of the business owners that I deal with in my practice, and I'm a business coach, and the succession planning area is my area of focus, it ends up being a little bit more than that. But if I can help that business owner, it's a great thing. And succession planning for me allows me in my practice to really see a business from wherever they are, because often you'll hear, certainly the succession planner is going to say this, but you'll hear financial advisors say this too, start with an exit plan on day one. I love quoting from Stephen Covey, who, if you read the 7 Habits book, and it doesn't matter to me which sort of success literature you choose from, but 7 Habits, I think it's habit number 2. They'll say start with you begin with the end in mind. And with that premise in mind, as I looked in sort of the macro statistics of what's happening in Canada in terms of my consulting practice, really depending on which article you read, I read a 2011 article from the CIBC, but they said there's about 300,000 small business owners that are transitioning in the next 5 to 10 years, and there are literally trillions of dollars that are going to be transferred from one ownership scenario to the next. So combining the aha moment, digging into working with business owners so that they have the end in mind and they can maximize the value today and sort of close the gap on getting to that exit that they want to is really, it's a thrill for me.
That sounds really interesting, and you said a couple of things that's already resonated with me. I always talk with my folks in healthcare about planning for when you leave before the clinic gets first started. So I always like to say, I will only wish good things for you. So when you win the $1 million lottery next week, what are you going to have in place so that your business can continue? And maybe we're talking the same idea, but a little bit, perhaps a more realistic plan.
Well, and I guess from my point of view, I'm not worried about which religion you're from. I just think there's a lot of great, wording and practice around a very similar theme, which is kind of know where you're going. I think there's a quote I'm going to say, there's a sort of a semi-quote out of Alice in Wonderland where she's talking to the Cheshire Cat, and he says, so where are you going? And she says, well, I'm not sure. He goes, well, great, then any road will take you there. And I love that story because my hope is not to get you on any road, but get you on the road that you want to be on intentionally, so that you are choosing your exit from your business, and also really kind of, getting that full discussion out about, if you're going to go to 95 or 105 years of age, there's a big part of what you're doing now that's going to influence that as well.
Excellent. Okay, so before we go any further, I want to ask you a big question. So if there can only be one thing that healthcare providers and clinic owners can do today to start the succession planning, what would that be? What is your number one tip? Number one tip,
whenever I give talks, whether it's to the Sherwood Park Chamber of Commerce or the Rotary or wherever I've given these talks to business owners, the thing that I always leave, and certainly beyond, sort of selling myself or whatever, is say, develop a contingency plan. If you got hit by a bus today, what are the steps in place that would allow your business to run and have continuity? And some folks are like, well, I've got the keys in a drawer, or I wrote the passwords down in one place. Certainly, depending on the intricacies of the business, there's a lot more to it. But the contingency plan is a great starting point. Succession planning is it's very detailed. There's a lot of things in play. Certainly, the way I go at it would be, say, in my practice, I'm upstream from the broker. I'm trying to get guys at least 2 to 10 years out to be proactive on the way. The broker then, takes over the transitional part of it, or depending on whether it's being done internally and that kind of thing. So if you can have a contingency plan, that starts to get the mechanics in place, and it will start to reveal the questions that you're going to need that are beyond a contingency plan. And there are great best practice companies. I know of an Edmonton company that started out where I think it was SARS in Toronto at their head office that they were concerned about, and that actually got them to start to write things down and, do knowledge transfer from key executives and create manuals and off-site servers, and it led to an annual set of best practices that they never got away from. So they started with contingency plan, and then it allowed them to realize, hey, you know what, this is not exit or succession planning. This is actually part of our productivity. And now they revisit that every year, and it allows them to be one of the top 50 employers, certainly in Alberta and possibly in Canada.